Sometimes I feel angry about it. I've always been a big supporter of drilling in the Gulf. My whole family has. But you know, we always expected and held the companies to the highest standard of safety and expected that that's what was happening. And you know, now we find out that there really wasn't even a contingency plan for something like this. That makes me angry.
Honestly, I mean, a lot of people are very concerned about this. I sense a lot of anger way up in the north, you know, where I live, way away from the Gulf Coast. Every taxi cab I get into, this seems like the driver has a very strong opinion about what's happened here and thinks it's terrible, which it is.
People are starting to realize that the pristine beaches that are so much a part of their life are forever gone and will never be back. And they're really getting angry. And I think they stay angry because that's easier than being heartsick and sad all the time.
What I was told is that if anything is said out of unified command, it's as if the President of the United States said it. Well, in my opinion, the President of the United States needs to get very loud and very vocal and tell people what is happening, whether or not it's confirmed with a QA/QC test or not. The public needs to know what's happening.
The government's real role and what their primary role should be is to protect us when we can't protect ourselves.
I think it could toxify the entire coastline and kill a lot of what's living in the Gulf. It probably won't keep pouring out of that hole for years. That's just what we all have our fingers crossed, that this attempt to drill these relief wells is simply going to work. But they're not giving us any assurances, and nobody knows. They keep saying we've never tried this in water this deep. That's not a good answer if you're going to drill in water this deep.
They're seeing heavy oil now on the surface of the water, and for the first time last week we saw sheen in the canal behind us here on our marsh.
Public health protection is the primary, most important responsibility we have in a disaster like this. Tourism isn't. Growth of the economy isn't. It cannot take precedent over protecting people's lives and health. We can make BP pay for this summer. Next summer, we can get our beaches cleaned up, we can be back in shape, and everything will be fine. But this summer, we have to put public health protection as our absolute top priority.
The EPA said publicly other countries do not allow the use of this dispersant.
Yeah, they banned it in the 70s or something like that.
So at some point in time, our government put a rubber stamp on the use of this particular dispersant.
What you're eating could be very hazardous to your health. You can't cook out benzene. You can't cook all this stuff out of the fish that you eat.
Most people will have some temporary irritation which will heal when they leave the area. More concern to me is the long-term neurological effect, which is going to be very insidious and going to be hard to document where it came from, but it's real.
Now, one thing that has changed since Memorial Day is it's pretty much a rule that you can't go down to the public beaches. They're, you know, hazardous chemical warnings, and I have a feeling that until this gets stopped, that's just going to be permanent now.
To me, this is a giant petri dish out here right now. This is just a giant experiment that they can actually now have detailed information and say, oh, as it turns out, it does kill all the crabs. We didn't know, but now we do. So if the next giant oil spill comes around, we won't use it at that.
Our interest is in getting it out of the water. Their interest is in dissolving it into the water so people don't know what's going on.
I hate to admit it, but it really does seem like the BP just doesn't care.
This effort should be nationalized, and BP should simply be paying for it. BP should not be in charge of any of this. They should not be hiring any of these people. Their interests and their interest in all of this theater that, in my opinion, really doesn't do anything, and the dispersants that, in my opinion, really hurt, are not the interests of the people of the United States. They're not in the public interest.